Blocking? There's no blocking where we're going. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today, courtesy of Dr. Michael Levine, we are going to be playing a Dimir Menace deck. Essentially, the general idea behind this deck list is that we are going to play a large number of creatures that dodge traditional blocking in some way, with flying, menace, shadow, or some other similar effect. And while most of the cards in this deck are going to be very typical legacy cards, Stalactite Stalker is a new card from Lost Caverns of Ixalan that you might not have really seen in action yet. It's a 1/1 base, which is not great in an Orcish Bowmaster format, but it's got some good abilities. At the beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. So you descended if a permanent card was put into your graveyard from anywhere. So that can be from the battlefield, from the stack, from your hand with something like a Troll Cycle from Troll of Khazad Doom. And it does have another ability. For 3 mana, you can sacrifice Stalactite Stalker, and then target creature gets -X until end of turn, where X is its power. So imagine that you play this on turn 1 off a fetch land. It is a starting 2/2, and every time you fetch, it is going to kind of continue to grow from there. And it's not just those fetches either, it's any permanent. Note that this does only trigger on your end step, it is not an each end step card. So let's take a look at the full deck list and kind of give you an appreciation for what all's happening here. So this is the deck list in all its glory. And we're, again, trying to maximize on these creatures that evade combat in some fashion. And when the deck is just maxed out on creatures that look like this, you can skimp on removal spells a little bit. If you kind of take a look at this, Orcish Bowmasters is removal for small things, and Brazen Borrower is some flexible bounce. But there's no Sudden Edicts, Shouldered Edicts, Fatal Push, Dismembers, things like that in the main deck. Stalactite Stalker can do some cleanup duty when it needs to. And as a reminder, like, black decks in Legacy are just almost always on this Grief, Reanimate, and usually Troll package. And you can bring this back as another removal spell. Is that efficient? No. But is it a nice piece of utility to have in the deck list? Yes, absolutely. So I think a question I'm going to have as I play this league is like, is this better than existing things in the blue-black shell? So for example, with a slight tweaking of the mana base, these could just be Death Shadows. You know, is this going to be better than that on average? And this is my first time playing with this card, so I don't really know. Michael's sideboard is a little spicy with 2 copies of Dystopia. If you are a long-time Death and Taxes or Maverick player, you probably have nightmares of playing against this card. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a green or white permanent. This is a strong way to take out a string of creatures from a deck like Death and Taxes, Maverick, Fiend Artisan, Elves, something of that general nature. And the cumulative upkeep of paying 1 life is not bad for the first couple of turns. So this can be a high value permanent as long as you didn't go too deep on Reanimate early on. And occasionally cards like this can do something weird, like say hit an Atraxa that otherwise might be taking over the game. And we have sort of Powder Keg here as another catch-all card that functions very similarly to a Ratchet Bomb. A lot of times these decks, by these decks I mean like blue-black decks in the vein of Death Shadow, are often really heavy on 1-drops, so you want a few cards in the 75 that can just bounce something like a Chalice of the Void or other hate piece out of play. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this one goes. And if you decide that you need your Stalactite Stalkers after watching today's video, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your next order. Let's do this. Actually, this is going to be one of my last videos that I record for the year, so I'm going to get sentimental for a minute or two and just kind of talk about some things. If you're here for the gameplay, use the timestamp down below to just go ahead and skip this segment. No judgment. So kind of, it's the end of 2023. I'm recording this on the 24th, so these are pretty close to my end of year statistics, and it's kind of crazy to me that things that I am doing in my life are measurable with the number 1 million. Like, that's a big number, like a number that is kind of hard to comprehend, you know? You get things you can count on your fingers. You get things that you can visualize, but when you start getting to a million, that's really impressive. So thank you to everyone who is consistently watching. My channel saw a pretty good amount of growth this year in terms of view and watch time. And if I don't say so myself, I think the quality has improved a lot in this last year. As of this time, end of last year, I was thinking about making content, like kind of the real content creation plunge, and switching to that as my primary job. And it was kind of a nerve-wracking decision, but now it's something that I'm really happy about. I teach in the morning, I record in the afternoon, and I almost never do content-related work in the evenings anymore, unless it's for the podcast or occasionally uploading a video or doing a guest appearance or something like that. And I have work-life balance now, which was something I didn't have a year ago, and I was definitely burning the candle at both ends. So thank you so much to everyone who supported me and encouraged me in making that decision. It has been a great one. Like, now I'm in a house that I own. I have a dedicated studio with nice little decorations that kind of gives off the appropriate cozy feel that I'm going for. And I've got high hopes for what I'm able to achieve in 2024. Picked up some wonderful sponsors this year. Cool Stuff Inc. has been very generous in their support towards me, both as an individual and helping out the massive fundraiser that I did. And that fundraiser for Trans Lifeline is probably the highlight of my year as far as content goes. That's doing something with Magic that is beyond just me, that is beyond just the videos, and that feels really good. Traveling to Magic Cons in this past year to actually get to meet many of you who are watching on the daily basis, and hear how you fall asleep to my videos, or I'm your lunch hour at work, kind of relief from a stressful day. That sort of thing means a lot. As far as metrics go, I'm up on every metric except subscriber count in the past year. I saw more growth in 2022. That was a year where I really put a lot of effort into thumbnails and fine-tuning some of the logistic things, so that's not surprising. But if you've been watching for a long time and you're not subscribed, I'm just saying, this number was down. Would love this number to go up. That number going up makes me look better to other potential sponsors. Can't talk about it. I have a large sponsorship that I'm hoping to nail in 2024. Fingers crossed that one goes through. Just a quick look behind the scenes. Excluding a short about the One Ring, which just took off because I was home when that kind of story broke. My best videos this year were one of the ones that premiered, thank you, slightly smaller, right when Orcish Bowmasters came out. That was just kind of a format-changing card, and I saw the same thing when the One Ring broke as well, with one of my mono-red Stompy deck lists. Other than that, it seemed like you all really enjoyed seeing Leylines, the Contamination deck, the mono-black Prison deck, as well as Infect with Embiggen. So with that, happy holidays for whatever it is you celebrate or don't celebrate at this time of the year. I wish you all well in terms of this holiday season. I know there's a lot of flu and colds and stuff floating around right now. I hope you and yours are all healthy, happy, and safe. And Happy New Year and all that, folks. Thanks for being with me on this part of the journey. It's not just about the legacy all the time. Sometimes it's just about the gathering. So thanks, and here's to looking forward to another great year of content. Alright, I am not in love with this hand that I've kept, but I don't really think it's worth throwing back. I am going to start on a basic. Since I have so many lands, I think it is a pretty low cost to do so. I am probably happy drawing these top two cards. This gives me stuff to do with my mana until I can get to Murktide Regent. Slightly awkwardly, if I get Underground Sea on one and then draw, exactly this card, I can't Wasteland plus Ponder in the same turn cycle. So, like, that's a thing. I don't know. I just had Blood Moon vibes. I can't explain it. Maybe I've seen this user play Blood Moon before, but it felt like a thing I cared about. 5? What the fuck is 5? Oh. Well, GG. I don't know that you're supposed to play that where X is 3 versus X is 2 and play around days, but they sure didn't get punished for it. 2 cards in graveyard, 3 cards in graveyard, 4 cards in graveyard. Theoretically need 1 more card to go to graveyard. Can be Boy. Alright. Maybe it's not Boy. Like Bowmaster, ping, token, block, kill 1, take 4, go to 9, go to 8, Bowmaster, ping you, get another orc, attack with Bowmaster, take initiative, play Ponder, and a 2/2. A lot of this is going to depend on whether or not my opponent can make a follow-up play. I'm going to get C. I think there's some times where my mana is just going to be a little bit too strained in a short amount of time. Oh, sorry, I'm taking 1 more damage than I said I did. Trample. This puts me to 7. That would have been such a good counterspell. Ooh. Don't do the initiative too. Fuck. The fact that my deck is so light on actual removal is going to now be a problem. Like, I can get a second body here, meaning I can always take the initiative. Brazen Borrower is, like, not bad. That's a thing that I could ponder for. But I think we just got out-turboed on turn 1. Alright. This is a plan. No shuffle. Force of Will as top card. For entrance of May. Fuck, it's not. Damn it. Okay. Game is going to be incredibly tight. I think what I'm going to do is fetch and get another non-basic land into play so that if another Archon comes down, the fetch land isn't just a double time walk as far as the use of that mana goes. Get Underground Sea. Petty Theft this out of play. The fact that these trample is rough. I'm not blocking with them. I think I'm attacking with both. I get to become the Monarch. Now we pull the basic swamp out of the deck. I've made my land drop already. Draw a card for being the Monarch. Force of Will would be ideal. Negative. So this trap, another turn from now, is the thing that kills me. Fuck. Oh shit, my opponent fucking punted to high heaven. Oh no, it doesn't matter. It kills me either way. Never mind. The illusion of choice. Yeah, so Forge pre-combat is 6 damage, whereas attack and then trap is also 6 damage. Well, damn. So I have a handful of tools at my disposal that I can board in. Probably just going to board the lone portent out. This is where I don't just have experience playing this matchup. I think when I'm on the play, my dazes are reasonable, especially if my opponent is not going to play around them. So conceptually, Bowmasters is something that I often like in these matchups as a way to take the initiative from my opponent when they have it. Does this just fill that role at CMC 1 instead of CMC 2, though? Because if that's the case, I can board some number of these out think I always want the removal spells. I think I always want Hydroblasts. This is a little slow. I'm not sure how it plays here. I'm maybe going to try one, because it doesn't hit everything. Do I want some powder kegs for 4th Aerlinga's tokens, though? Unsure. I think on the draw, I just board down some number of dazes and play some more removal. So I turn 1 grief my opponent, and then I ponder looking for a reanimate for their initiative creature that I take. I have 2nd land drop and theoretical reanimate. It's fine. I'm not overly excited, though. My opponent is on their 7. Turn 1 Archon of Ameria is really quite annoying. I think I'm going to stay the course and put the initiative creature into the graveyard. And I would like to find Reanimate. I did find Reanimate. This Wasteland always ETBs tapped. So my opponent plays Archon on 1, which they probably will. So I think I just take the 2nd Troll. There's City, Petal. Ooh. That's fine. That's a very good draw for them. Probably the ideal draw, honestly. I can get Underground Sea now that the Archon isn't in play. I can fire off a Reanimate, which gets me my basic island. I control cycle or a basic swamp. The Goblin Shaman now can't safely attack. It can still attack, but it dies to Caves of Chaos Adventurers. My opponent has looted through the Archons. The flying seems conceptually nice to me, but they do have better things in their deck. Ooh, are you just giving up that land? Alright. Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. So when I'm on the draw, Daze is often going to be too slow for my opponent's first play. Force of Negation is okay for 4th Aerlingas. Powder Keg, Dystopia, a couple copies of Bowmasters are also things that I can be thinking about. Force of Negation misses a lot of stuff. Like, it misses the initiative creatures, but it hits Fables and 4th Aerlingas. My blue count is a little low if I cut Dazes and don't bring in blue cards to replace them. Maybe I keep Daze. We're just, like, more black than normal. I also bring Portent back in. Let's bring in 2nd Powder Keg and just trim a Daze. I'm still unsure about these. Like, seeing multiple Archons makes me like them a little bit more, but it's hard to cast this after my opponent plays an Archon on the play, so I don't know. I love this Force of Will and Initiative creature, and reanimate it. That is a game plan. I unfortunately do have to counter that. I just have 4/1 drops in hand. A lot of times in this matchup, you can just let something like that resolve. Not this time. I also may be wastelanding my opponent. That's a weird draw. I think I am supposed to slow my opponent down here. I think I would like to keep a 3-drop like an Archon of Ameria out of play and give me time to actually like cantrip and stuff. Or find a Grief to reanimate one of their initiative creatures. Now, some portion of the time this doesn't work, and they just have, like, another Soul Land and another land, and or, like, a Soul Land and a Spirit Guide, and bad things still end up happening to me. But some portion of the time, their turn looks like this, and I get some breathing room. This turn's tough. I think I am going to put a creature into play. Putting a creature into play means that I can contest the initiative, and this is a threat that will scale up over the course of this game. However, if my opponent goes something like Ancient Tomb into Archon, every card in my hand gets noticeably worse from there. And I'm not giving myself the opportunity to ponder for days or ponder for another land drop preemptively. But if my opponent stumbles, I would love them to stumble while I am scaling up a creature. Fuck yeah. And another land drop. This is great. I think I am just going to play a 2nd creature this turn, because my reanimates are so good even if I end up losing both creatures to something like a Fury. which would be about the worst case scenario. We've got 4 Menace power in play. That races a lot of stuff. Great. That means I can descend this turn. Is taking another Ponder fine? Probably. At this point, I'll go ahead and attack. Opponent drops to 15. I already have black in play. I'm going to just grab the other basic. As a precaution against Magus of the Moon specifically. It is a Grief. That is awesome. No shuffle. Grief. Pitch a Reanimate. Targeting you. They've had a Solitude that they just haven't used. That is a decision. I can take an initiative creature and reanimate it. I don't really think I need to. I'm going to take a Solitude. Reanimating the Grief is perfectly fine here. Now this scales up, and I have my opponent on a 2-turn clock. They just opted not to use a removal spell on a 3-power creature that was going to attack them multiple times. So while they definitely got mana screwed by my Wasteland, they could have had significantly more time by actually using Solitude. Lotus Petal is fine. All of this has Menace. You don't race me. Now, unfortunately, because I played around Magus of the Moon, I don't get to play this other Grief this turn. Do I want a Solitude in play? Yeah, maybe I want a Solitude in play. Just send in like this. Clear the board. My opponent can't take initiative back without top decking another land. Menace. Alright, I take initiative. Don't have a basic to get. Sack this. Yeah, let's keep the board clear. Prolongs the game a little bit. I don't think that's a problem, especially with this scaling up to the point where I can just use it as a removal spell. And if my opponent wants to do something like play another creature, so now they can go to Forge. They can attempt to put counters on this creature. I can just nuke it from orbit with Stalactite Stalker. I don't know, maybe this was worse than just trying to kill my opponent. But it seems like having a forged up Solitude is pretty damn good. So this puts my opponent to 9. I forge up Solitude. It's a 5/4 lifelinker, and now I take my opponent's best card from hand on top of that. What you got? So I always have 6 Menace damage next turn, and then trap on top of that. My opponent's dead unless they draw a removal spell. Caves of Chaos Adventurer can trade with Solitude. Seasoned Dungeoneer can't. Let's take Caves and call it a turn. This would be a good game to plot out decision trees on and figure out which line is truly better. I think it is one of those times where, like, I'm so far ahead that no matter which one of these lines I take, it's going to end up winning. But my opponent would just be dead by now if I just shoved twice. So Cavern's fine. I believe at this point my opponent is deterministically dead, because they can't have Solitude. Yep, GG's.
Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and I personally keep all of my deck lists for every format on this site. I love that I can go and sort them by types and tags if I need to. There's a lot of different viewing options. It can give you some math about your mana symbol, your curve, and you can even playtest and do sample opening hands with it. Check this site out if you haven't before. It's awesome.
All right. Opening hand has a full house in it, so I think we're going to keep. We need either Bowmasters or Wasteland to be good against this opponent, or the opening hand's bad, but there's a pretty good chance one of these two cards is reasonable to good. Turn 1 Blood Moon, get wrecked, nerd. Ooh. We are playing against a Beseech the Mirror combo deck. It's possible we just get turn 1 here. Okay. Less likely now. Opponent needed to play out the multiple artifacts for Metalcraft. We'll snap off Wasteland on a non-basic land if I have the chance to, but I do not. So we've kind of got the wrong sort of hand for the matchup. But my opponent doesn't know that. So they may end up waiting a little while to their detriment to try to find like a discard spell to see what they have to play through. Notably, my opponent has told me that this is their first match on this deck, or first league with this deck, so it is possible that they will end up making some errors. We're getting some setup. Depending on what my opponent reveals, Wasteland is probably going to be better than Bowmasters. Ooh, Empty the Warrens. Sure. Empty the Warrens is like very beatable with 3 Bowmasters. Yeah, this is fine. I get wanting to do something safe. I guess this deck plays Veil of Summer, so I guess I do this at sorcery speed. Ping. The next turn I can Wasteland this Taiga, play another Bowmasters. Or play Bowmasters, reanimate Bowmasters if I block this turn. With my opponent on 2 cards, that's probably just a better use of my resources. Especially since Mox Opal is not currently turned on for Metalcraft purposes. Perfectly happy with a Daze here. I think given that draw, I'm just going to go ahead and pass the turn. Then I can upkeep Wasteland, take my opponent off of green for Veil of Summer. All right, they floated red. That's fine. We'll go to their draw step. And then I'll go ahead and ping down another goblin. Goodbye. Remove that now. Cool. We'll Wasteland that on our own turn. Are you on defense now with these goblins? No. I think I will block and trade one. Then I'll just ping and kill the last one. That's also really good. But let's start here. I think I'm just going to play this turn. I think I want to give myself a little bit more time to draw a different black card for Grief. Like, I would love to let my opponent accumulate a couple of cards and then Grief reanimate Grief and just slam the door on this game. Or maybe I hardcast it. Let's ponder first and sculpt things out. Yeah, I only have to take one of these. So let's Grief, pitching the Troll. We will take Burning Wish. I'll just fetch these lands off the top of my deck. Like so. Send on in. Opponent goes to 16. I reanimate Grief. Now, do I take the Brainstorm? It is just 6 direct damage to my opponent's face. I think I take the Dark Ritual. I think either path leads to victory. But the Dark Ritual makes it easier to just accidentally do something with top decked Beseech. Alright, send them. Opponent's at 10. I'm going to hold this in case I draw Grief next turn. I don't need the land drop. Well, I guess if I cycle this, then I just hardcast a Grief next turn. LED is fine. Mox Opal is on. I will cycle. Grab the Swamp and leave the last Underground Sea in there in case I have like a blue-only fetch land. So the Brainstorm in my opponent's hand is no longer castable. 1, 2, that's all the goodies in there. I'll leave open extra mana just in case. Shouldn't really need it though. That'll do. Kind of a weird the way that the draws lined up. That my triple Bowmasters ended up being very good against a Storm deck, which isn't usually going to be the case. All right. I have a very large number of cards that I can board in that have, like, text of some kind in the matchup. So I guess we start in the main deck. What don't I want? Hydroblast is probably going to be too narrow. Brazen Borrowers are expendable. Portent is expendable. I can probably go down some number of threats. Like, I don't think this has to be a Stalactite Stalker matchup. Null Rods and Forces are great. Powder Keg can wipe out Empty the Warrens tokens or sweep artifact mana that's played out on a non-combo turn. Maybe I don't Cling to Dust. If I don't Cling to Dust, I can just do this. Cling to Dust and Fairy are just kind of nice for disrupting Beseech lines. I could go down a Troll if I want to play a Cling, which I think I'm okay with. This is a little weird. I think this has enough good cards that I keep it, despite some of the awkwardness here. Troll just gives me both blue and black. It gives me both my colors. And if I top deck any land, I can even Wasteland on turn 1 if that's a thing that I think I need to do. Sure. We are happy with artifact mana that is played out on non-combo turns because of the Powder Keg in my hand. That is a Gaia's Will under here. There's often a second one in these decks. That's fine. My opponent goes all in on LED, I just Force of Negation. So if this last card is a Storm spell, this is awkward for me to not Force of Will. Like if this last card is Empty the Warrens, for example, it's awkward. Storm is 1, 2, 3, 4. I just beat that with Powder Keg. You got it, boss. I guess Galvanic Relay is awkward. Alright. Alright, there is a Beseech there. Which is castable, but then I can just Force of Negation it. This is fine. We're not Wastelanding because I always need to Troll Cycle. Alright, mana time. Alright, they are not going for the Beseech. They are going for a Brainstorm. That's fine. I'm trying not to fire off this Force of Negation until the right time. Like, the right time might have been that Dark Ritual on turn 1, but I felt like I could wait. Alright. My opponent has gotten, what? Lotus Petal, Brainstorm, land out of Galvanic Relay. And if that's all they get, that's fine with me. It's fine. Their last card being Veil of Summer would be awkward, right? Because they just cast Veil and then double sack LED to Beseech. That's something that currently beats me. Oh, that's fine. And any of this artifact mana that's still in play at end of turn is just getting eaten by Powder Keg. Alright, so Lotus Petal and LED are gone for this Beseech. And we'll keep that out of the graveyard. Now we'll Swamp Cycle. Pick up an Underground Sea. Do I even take out the LED now? Maybe I just get a threat in play. It can't be Douthie Voidwalker, though. Yeah, when I was going to be getting a 2-for-1, I liked this. I'm not sure that I like it anymore. Let's just Sorcery Speed throw one of these down. I feel safe adjacent with a Fairy in hand. The Carpet is not irrelevant, but not super scary right now. Oh, just the 1-card Galvanic Relay. I think you probably hold that rather than take 1 redraw. That is my opinion. So I think my opponent's a little choked here. I think I am interested in continuing that pattern. I just don't fetch another island here. I'm not really taking them off a color. I'm taking them off raw amounts of mana. Like, I'll do this, attack for 2, and then I can start looking at replaying their cards. I can look at playing Powder Keg to wipe LED or Carpet of Flowers out of play. Or Chromox is totally fine. No imprint, so that's just working towards Metalcraft. I just have a 3-turn clock with current power. I think I'm just gonna play Powder Keg without fetching, with the intention of ticking it up to get rid of Carpet. Powder Keg also just makes Beseech lines worse. I can just wipe out the artifacts. No movement from my opponent. So now I decide, Is getting rid of LED and Chromox better than getting rid of Carpet? Carpet is 1 guaranteed mana. I think I'm getting rid of Carpet. Alright, we're going to go ahead and send in for 5. I'll go ahead and Brainstorm. Well, that's all pretty good. Let's keep Force of Will blue card, Fairy. Bowmaster's on top. I guess I'll Powder Keg on my opponent's turn. Oh no, it's Artifact and Creature. Did he ask Ratchet Bomb? Okay, that was a misplay on my end. When someone asks, why don't you play Powder Keg? This is the answer. Won anyway, didn't matter. GG's. My opening hand is batshit insane, and my opponent has mulligan to 4. I just have Grief, Reanimate, Grief with Force of Will, and Wasteland backup. This is probably about the ideal hand for this deck. Oh, that's a little awkward. Pitch to Fatal Push. My opponent's on something fair. Okay. Even if their last card is Reanimate, and they take another one of my cards, if my opponent is down that many cards, we should be able to catch up. Like, if they do this, I just get... Well, I guess I have to take Reanimate. Yeah, but if at any point I get, like, another Reanimate, this is just kind of nutty. I think I'm going to play just Island and pass. I'm going to set a stop on my own upkeep, because I think there's a very good chance that I do... Oh, their Mystic Sanctuary levels of big. Sure. Alright, I'm at 17. Anyway, I think there's a very good chance that I Troll Shuffle here. Let's get rid of 1 Troll and a Wasteland. I don't really want to be Wastelanding my opponent right now. That's just, like, very much not the plan. Let's not. That may allow my opponent to play more Magic than they otherwise would be able to. But I think I have to just prepare to cast multiple copies of Grief as this game goes longer. Because the way I lose is just to this going all the way. And if that doesn't go all the way, like, my increased ability to play around various things is just going to outpace my opponent. Now that I've drawn Bowmasters, I can probably just Wasteland this Underground Sea in their upkeep. And then this forces any action on a spell like Bowmasters. Well, I mean, if I must. Yeah. I mean, opponent had the ideal 4-card hand, right? Like, if you're going to mulligan to 4, that's how you want it to look. Just Grief, black card, Reanimate, black land. So I've seen so few cards from my opponent that I don't fully know what they're on. It is possible they have another color, and the Mystic Sanctuary is an indication that they're maybe bigger than something like a blue-black Scam deck, and that we might be versing like Bug Beans or something like that. I conceptually like Fatal Push. Don't mind Cling to Dust. Trust Down has some applications. I don't know that I'm into it. I think I'm looking at Daze or Force of Will here as the potential cuts. I think on the draw I like Daze. A lot of times I'm not going to want to 2-for-1 myself for a Force of Will. Like, this matchup is fair. And Force of Will lines up kind of poorly versus things like Grief as well. This is an unimpressive hand that I think I am fine with, especially after my opponent mulligans. Like, I have a Force of Will for worst case scenarios. I have a Brazen Borrower to bounce something like a Troll that gets into play. I could reset the game with Wasteland, but that's really bad if my opponent is holding up mana to Troll Cycle, and then they, like, Reanimate Daze backup. I think I'm just going to Ponder for another land. I've got fucking Trolls. Why did I fetch? Alright, it is what it is. I did it. End of turn Brainstorm's fine. See if we have a Troll Shuffle in upkeep. We do not. Slightly awkward. I think I'm just gonna force that. I'm just going to go ahead and Swamp Cycle, I think for a basic, and call that good. It's a little awkward if my opponent has a Reanimate. Actually, this isn't so bad. They just Brazen Borrower, bounce the troll that they reanimate to hand, and then have Force of Will backup for it, pitching up Portent. Yeah. Bottom. No shuffle. Do I Wasteland? I think so. I don't think I want my opponent to stick like another Douthie Voidwalker or Bowmaster or Murktide immediately. Plus, I kind of have 4 lands. You squint sideways. That's actually annoying, because that means that they can target the one in their own graveyard, and then I can't bounce it to my hand. But that hasn't happened. I think I keep the Portent to pitch to Force of Will. So it's still kind of like to Force of Will something like a Bowmaster. That's fine. If that gets another Underground Sea, we've kind of fully confirmed that there's not another color in the deck, and that it is just base blue-black. Did I want that other Brazen Borrower, actually? I definitely just took myself off of it. I think I'm supposed to redraw that. Just not use my mana. I think that is a clear mistake. That is what it is. All right, we're staring each other down for a little while. I think my opponent's favored here. I made a pretty bad mistake of shuffling. And am getting punished for it. I guess I wouldn't actually be proactively playing out that Brazen Borrower into what I suspect is Orcish Bowmaster anyway. Yes, that's fine. I think that was Bowmaster bait. Sure. Getting back the Brainstorm again. That's fine. I'd be more afraid of getting back Lorien revealed, like they're not far away from that. Yuck. I think since these two are cards that I would likely put back anyway, if I draw a Brainstorm, I'm just okay with playing out that additional land drop. It also just lets me play around Soft Permission. Daze and Force of Will, both a little awkward at this stage of the game. Alright. I'll fetch. Grab this last Underground Sea. Play this Underground Sea, pass turn. My opponent will almost certainly play Bowmasters in response to this trigger. Fatal Push. I'm good with that. These regular old cantrips are fine. And there's a fetch land. Again, I don't think I'm supposed to play this card out. This, though. This I'm perfectly happy casting. It's almost always a 2-for-1 in some capacity. That's fine. Alright. Looks like Grief's good now. Ooh, no. It is an Orcish Bowmasters. I don't really want that to resolve. By Force of Will pitching Daze or Force of Will pitching Portent. As weird as it is, I think it's the Portent, because it's possible my opponent just like Spell Pierces me back or something here. And I would like to win this fight. Let's sculpt a plan. Okay. I'll take a Force of Will here. It is... that was Island left over, right? Yeah. So it's possible my opponent's top card is something like a Murktide Regent, in which case they'll have the better thing in play, but then I get Force of Will and Daze out of their hand at the same time. Okay, it is just Island Pass. So if it's another Bowmasters, I attack, you Bowmasters, I Fatal Push, you Force of Will pitching Daze, you win that fight. Then I Brazen Borrower to make you unwin that fight. That sounds all perfectly reasonable. 16. No, not Bowmasters. My opponent kept both of these cards, whatever the fuck they are. Spend them. Really awkward for me to cast Ponder into Orcish Bowmaster with Force of Will backup. Brazen Borrower doesn't super help win that exact battle. I don't think I'm going to cast this Ponder this turn. Just feels wrong. Sure. This is opponent controls. Oh, that can just happen. Now on an empty board, it's much safer for me to ponder because pondering isn't immediately just exposing my grief. That's awkward. That kind of plays around my stuff. Don't have Revolt currently. They have mana up. And this is not something great to cast in response to the grief trigger. I think I'm just going to let them take my Brazen Borrower and cast this Ponder. They might take the push. I think the Borrower is the best card. They're going for the push. Alright, so let's cast this Ponder. Ooh, it's a Bowmasters. That's really good. The Force of Will is not bad either. I'm just going to put Force of Will on top. I'm going to go ahead and play Stalactite Stalker and pass turn. And then I'll take 3 from this. And the following turn, I'll play Bowmasters with my own Force of Will backup. But I have Bowmasters if my opponent fires off some spell. I don't know, maybe I'm supposed to just draw the Force of Will this turn if I'm not going to commit to playing the Bowmasters. It's less good if I'm not descending. Hopefully that's fine, though. Alright. Maybe we take 3 one more time. Wasteland's fine. Another grief. I could hardcast a Force of Will on this. I don't think I like that. I think I like pitch cast Force of Will here. Getting rid of the days. Alright, so their Force of Will and days are now gone. I will respond by then playing my Orcish Bowmasters, pinging my opponent. Let's let that force resolve. I think I let this grief resolve and petty theft it out of play with that trigger on the stack. And now the result is we're both at 9, but I get the first attack. I think is good. Sheoldred's Edict. I think this one. I think the Bowmaster is too valuable. Let's make a plan. My own grief to take your grief. All right, where does the Force of Will go? This is kind of a game-defining decision. So I think I always draw the grief. My opponent's at 7 after this attack, assuming that it goes through. I take their grief, and we're both playing off the top of the deck. I think I put Force of Will as the second one down. So I grief. Take your grief. Attack for 2. And now, on my next turn cycle, I hold up a Force of Will around a daze, and I can end of turn Brazen Borrower if I feel like I need to do that. We are looking to dodge a powerful draw such as Murktide Regent here. This has been a great game of Magic. Hell of a slog, as we both kind of awkwardly just drew counterspells and lands for a huge portion of the middle game. I think while thinking, both of us thinking the other's hand was much better than it really was. Ooh, a reanimate. So that pings my Bowmasters. I take a hit for 3 down to 6. You don't have lethal the following turn, but you can double block my creatures. All right, so what happens if you block on grief? You go to 4, I still have lethal. That's fine. Sometimes. I think I am attacking with both. Oh, wow. My opponent is going to leave me with a lethal threat. And I'm really going to have 2 lethal threats. And this whole Force of Will. Your reanimate resolves. Absolutely. I respect showing yourself the door there. That was fantastic. All right, I'm going to keep this one. I think I'm going to ponder on turn 1. A lot of times you don't know exactly what you're pondering. Never mind, I know what I'm pondering for. It's this shit right here. Injected into my veins. Ooh. The opponent's probably got a troll they're going to cycle. That's my read on why I didn't get Wastelanded. Okay, it was a Lorien revealed. Finding a Trop. Before my opponent has Daze Mana potentially available, I think I'm just going to stick one of these. I just want to win a fight over Bowmasters this game. Potentially playing against Beans. And so just having Bowmasters that get to stick around forever would be pretty cool. I mean, it could be a Delver variant as well. We'll find out. Here's the Trop we knew about. And we're chilling. Just Bowmastering again. Maybe just Bowmastering again. I would love to Brainstorm and then Bowmaster. I don't know that I get to do that. It's just like disastrous if I miss the land. And I don't think I'm going to try to push an extra point of damage here. I'd rather just fight at some other time. Cycle away. And I think at this point, I'm just going to cast another one of these bad boys. All right, we're hit and play with our spells, which is great. And I've got double Force of Will to defend these. That's fine. A Witherbloom command. We're going to daze that. And say no. You daze my daze. I think I'm okay forcing. Like, I would like multiple Bowmasters in play. My opponent forces back or dazes back. I think that ends with me being in an okay spot. Alright, and there is going to be a Force of Will back. Pitching a Murktide. If they're going to, like, return the Wasteland. There are Beans. No, they're getting a Delta. Roll is fine. Am I trying to make this one Bowmaster go all the way? It's probably not realistic. I'm just going to use this as a second land drop. If I had the other Bowmaster in play still, I think I grief here. Well, they did have another Wasteland. Sure. Get a new Underground Sea. Alright, and I'm going to be left in that same spot as last turn. A little different now that my opponent is 3 life points lower and has blown another Wasteland. I think circumstances have changed enough that I now try to keep a single removal spell from taking the Bowmaster out of play. Oh yeah, we'll take the Witherbloom command. And then if I draw a blue card to back this up, this Bowmaster can probably go all the way. Some portion of the time my opponent can just like ponder into a Murderous Cut or whatever, and that's that. But I will have 2 bodies in play. A single removal spell doesn't just fully clear this, and they shuffled with the Ponder. Sure. So this is also gone. Blue card. A very good blue card, like one that I would prefer not to pitch to Force of Will, but this game is very close to over. Yep. So this means that the Orc army by itself is lethal. Okay, cool. That was a cool game. I don't know that I'm going to board a lot here. Force of Will and Dazes are both kind of medium. I can Fatal Push for opposing Bowmasters. I can Cling to Dust, which kind of messes with some graveyard stuff for Witherbloom command, but only kind of. Force Negation's okay. I just might not be sideboarding very much because I'm trying to end this game in the early game because my opponent is just going to win the end game. They just are most of the time. So while cards like Daze and Force of Will are maybe not ideal, I think I'm going to end up playing them. Maybe when I'm on the draw, I sub 2 Dazes for 2 Force of Negations. I don't know, I can still Fatal Push to take out opposing Bowmasters. Maybe I'll do that on the draw. I don't know. Fatal Push is going to be a dead card in hand a lot of the time. But the times where it isn't, it will matter a lot. Holy fuck. Boys, we out there menacing our stalactites. Sure. That's fine. So it's like really awkward whether or not I use this fetch land, right? Okay, now it's not, right? I just grief, pitch grief. Yeah, so land drop, grief, pitch grief. We're looking to take something like a Bowmaster. Daze. think I'm taking that so I can play a creature this turn and not have it be countered. That's a little weird. But the idea is to just race Murderous Cut. Like, this is a 2/2 now. Then next turn I play double Stalker. And I'm kind of like racing Murderous Cut and Leovold. Leovold as a singular creature won't block Stalactite Stalkers. Alright, so my opponent's going to Brainstorm prior to me having a chance to play a Bowmasters, which is smart. Ooh, that's very good. That's very, very, very good. It means that I don't get to double Stalker, and Murderous Cut is better. Awkward. Awkward. I think I accept the awkwardness. Keep playing Stalkers until we can't stalk no more. We get being stalked. Yield to those. The opponent can probably like Ponder and Murderous Cut the bigger one of these using their turn 3 to activate this. Just got to keep in mind that I might need to take a Leovold out of play in another turn cycle or two. Deck's pretty good. All right. 3 of 5 cards known. Where did I end up on Days out for this game, right? Yeah. Definitely want to when I'm on the play. Like, they would be so good backing up a situation like this. All right. That happens. I hopefully just, like, play another one and get to grow both without missing a beat. I'm going to be pondering for a fetch land. Like, that is very much in my future. Okay, Fatal Push answers Leovold. So this is Dazable Ponder. Reanimate is great. Troll, Ponder, Reanimate, no shuffle, land, send them. Opponent's at 15, and I think I reanimate the Grief over playing another Stalactite Stalker, because this can take the Leovold and make the Ponder that's on top of my library better. Yes. Take Leovold, Brainstorm, Command, and Wasteland. Okay, knocked off blue. That makes that Ponder worse. Then I just put a third creature into play. Although that one's bad versus Witherbloom. I don't know, the Witherbloom goes back a good portion of the time here, right? It just, like, isn't good versus board. Alright, there's a Wasteland. Which is not unexpected. If my opponent doesn't shuffle, though, that means Witherbloom Command is still somewhere over there. I may not end up with any choice. Like, I might just have to play out my creatures and just keep turning them sideways. Ooh, that Fatal Push is quite good. So, do I try to wait and try to draw a fetch land? Or do I just trade it for my 2 mana? My opponent's 2 mana. I'm gonna wait. I don't remember what my next card down is. Okay, so they're just gonna do a drain and return a land. Get a Wasteland back. I'd love to find a basic. I can now play out Stalactite Stalker, which I will probably do, despite the awkwardness of not then casting Ponder. I think I live with it, because like this just immediately gets to become a 2/2. And again, like trying to play around Bowmasters is good. Yeah, these things are cool. All right, as expected. Again, though, I am trying to be the beatdown here. So we're just trying to end the game before my opponent gets to their good cards. So I'll play this land drop. That way I can Fatal Push around a Daze if my opponent plays something like a Bowmasters. They do not. I will go ahead and Ponder. Wasteland this turn? I think? I'm a fucking idiot. Made a land drop. It was just objectively an incorrect play and a very costly one. Okay, it is just drain and return a land. That's fine. I get wastelanded again. That's fine. Maybe my mistake play isn't going to end up being so bad, given how the game just progressed, though. So I'm going to attack for 5. Opponent goes to 5. Then I'll play Stalactite Stalker and grow all 3 with Wasteland rather than just growing 2 of them. I still think my play was objectively a mistake, but it did happen to dodge the Witherbloom command that my opponent had, so it worked out somehow. This gets to be the thumbnail card today. This card is Cleaning House. So I just now realized that we're actually playing for a trophy here. I think I'm just going to hold up Brainstorm with this hand. I don't really know what I'm looking for with a cantrip yet, so I don't think I have to cast one. I would be perfectly fine trading this Brainstorm with a Daze. Upkeep stop. I don't think I like Force of Will. I don't think I like Second Troll. Then we are just gonna Troll Cycle. We're just gonna pick up more Underground Seas at this point. We're already Wastelandable. That's a perfectly good draw for next turn. I am just going to Portent this turn, targeting myself. I'd like to find a Reanimate. I'm not into this stuff. Use the ability to shuffle. Yes. My opponent can Brainstorm right back. I am presuming that we are playing against Delver until something changes my mind. In which case, an early Douthie Voidwalker is very good. I don't think it's like good enough that I back it up with Force of Will. Oh, holy shit, we just drew another one. That is such fucking gas. Very happy with that. Because like if we try to back this up with Force of Will, it's just awkward a good portion of the time. Orcish Bowmasters is a card that exists that makes the sequencing for this turn really fucking hard. Because I can play Douthie Voidwalker first to play around Daze. Or I can play Ponder first, but it's worse versus Bowmasters by a lot. Oh, why is Magic so hard? I think I'm just going to play Voidwalker. Alright, we are getting a fetch. It's not a black land. My opponent actually on fucking Show and Tell? Am I supposed to cast this Grief right now? I think I'm supposed to cast this Grief right now. Okay, this is not quite how I saw this turn going. Like, I would look real dumb if my opponent just Lightning Bolts this card. God damn it. Alright. I got scared. Help me, Force of Will. Put back. Land with the intention of Troll Cycling. Alright, this did not work out well for me. Oh. Opponent's on, like, Fairies. Brainstorm is probably the best card here. The Sprite is a hard counter for a 1-drop. Maybe worse as this game goes on. I'm gonna take the Sprite. Alright. Ponder Cavern as the most relevant things my opponent has. Alright, land drop. This is a Ponder, presumably to shuffle. I have to keep in mind that my opponent can have a Spell Pierce, but that's a card that's pretty good to shuffle away at this stage of the game with me already having 3 land drops. No shuffle. Understood. Let's Swamp Cycle. Just get another one of these. Spell Pierceable Brainstorm. Then Ponder that I actually care about. Ooh, Stalker is good. Let's put back a C. And a Ponder. Play a land. I guess I see if this resolves before I fetch. Now we'll fetch. Let's leave the Underground Sea in there. And I'm fine just converting Ponder into a different card. Preferably looking for more threats. Yeah, the Spell Pierce is fine. And then this starts scaling up. We are looking to get this past a 3/3. There's a good chance that once it is a 4/4 and it's outside of Lightning Bolt range, that my opponent just can't remove it. Ponder. I'm the opponent. I'm looking for Lightning Bolt or a threat of my own to help me race. I assume there's like some Murktides or DRCs or something like that in here. It feels like that was a safe assumption. Reanimate. That's an okay card. I think I start my turn looking for an answer to Murktide Regent. I've got like Brazen Borrowers. Nope. Shuffle. I think the way this goes is I play Bowmasters, and I give my opponent a chance to counter that. That way I can reanimate it. So 7, 14 leaves me with 4 life. So I don't want to reanimate Grief. I want like Douthy Voidwalker. That's good enough for a Force of Will. Opponent notably let the Bowmasters resolve. So that's a thing. My opponent gets this first attack. Another Bowmasters. Okay. Send them. I think we're in a every single point of damage counts situation. I think I am supposed to cast this Orcish Bowmasters right now for the additional point of damage. Send it at my opponent's face here. That grows this token. Opponent goes to 9. They are still ahead. I have 6 damage on my turn. They are at 9 life. They kill me in 2 swings, and they have the first swing. Puts me to 4. Stalactite Stalker is not quite enough in terms of a combat trick, so I need a live draw. That's not going to do it. We'll cast it to get a look at some extra cards in my opponent's hand. But it's not like I can do a bluff attack and that they're going to hold this back, because they would just always be dead to it. The Force of Will to hide some information. And unfortunately, we only get to knock them down to 2 before they get to Murktide me to death. Womp, womp. That was a very close game. So if I presume a giant pile of Hydroblasts, like Pyroblasts are coming in, then these get considerably worse. I'm going to assume Fatal Push has some good targets. I'm going to assume that Hydroblast is okay. And then I think I'm probably good with that. If I board out the Force of Wills, I'm not like the best at answering Murktide Regent. I've got a couple of Brazen Borrowers to bounce it out of play. I've got Douthy Voidwalkers to keep it out. I don't know, maybe I still need the Forces. Maybe on the draw I just get rid of Dazes and bring Forces back in. I think I like that. My opponent tapped Murktide Regent into Daze this game. Doesn't mean they'll do it in the future, but it was a thing that happened. Yeah, this is fine. So I think I just play Stalactite Stalker on 1. And then I control cycle into reanimate on 2. And then that'll trigger the Stalactite Stalker. That seems like a best about. Whoa. Good sequencing. Words. Alright, so Swamp Cycle. C. Just a little punchy as a treat. Then we'll attempt to reanimate. You know, it's dazable, it's forcible. Now, fuck it, it happens. We're balling. Get bigger, little buddy. Little goblin rogue that could. Sure, that's fine. Fetch to clear the brainstorm. And I'm just crashing in for 8 here. Holy shit. Seems good. Opponent goes to 10. Orcish Bowmasters or Douthy Voidwalker represents lethal. I think I just cast Voidwalker. Like if it gets countered, that's a reanimation target for next turn. That's fine. That's another creature in play. Dead? Feels like my opponent is dead. All these have like some form of evasion as well. I'll do it again. Sure. Like this is not that big of a deal. Another Bowmasters, sure. Let's attack for 2. Opponent goes to 8. I think I Swamp Cycle, because that guaranteed grows this. Then it's a little harder. I think I shove Reanimate on Troll around Daze. And now I'm going to Sorcery Speed Brainstorm to see if I can find a Grief. I did not. Maybe put back Murktide Bowmasters. And then step this grows. I don't know, maybe I'm supposed to just play Bowmasters as to not lower my own life total too much, so that I end up in range where, like,
Murktide Regent backed by something else could potentially swing the game back in my opponent's direction. I haven't seen that much of my opponent's deck. I still don't know some of the things going on over there. I think I am game for this. In some capacity, this reanimates a troll with Force of Will backup on turn 2. That's actually a little annoying. Because that, with spells, fuck your land. Absolutely fuck your land. Beaky. I am still just going to get rid of it right now. Blue deck does not want Cavernous Souls around as this game goes longer, especially with an active Force of Will in my own hand. Hydroblast. Unclear how good that card actually is. I don't think I'm pondering. I think I'm just cycling Troll at my opponent's end step so that I can play Reanimate around Daze naturally. Unlicensed Hearse. No. We're going to Force a Will that, pitching Hydroblast. Success. Because the Hearse would be really good against what I am currently trying to accomplish. So let's jam Reanimate. See if that works. I figured it would, because if my opponent could fight over Hearse, they probably would. Currently casting a Ponder. These are fine. I think I'm happy enough drawing these. Portent on bottom. Draw these other two. Made my land drop. Next turn I play Brazen Borrower as an attacker. The following turn I play Grief as an attacker. I'm not playing to protect the troll here. I am playing to produce more bodies that my opponent has to answer in addition to the troll. Because my opponent might have 2-ish bounce spells for this troll. I don't know exactly. Double bolting is also a thing that exists. Okay. That's a Mistia's land drop and pass. So I shouldn't need to play a Brazen Borrower in combat. Is there any timeline where I want to brainstorm and fetch in this turn cycle? I think no. I'm going to commit to my Underground Sea just in case something super weird happens, like my opponent fetching up black mana and playing an Edict. I think I want to play around that. And then I'll just pass the turn. It seems like what I'm doing just is not lining up well for my opponent. You may Island Cycle, that's fine. Sure. End of turn, threat. Don't care if you daze, don't care if you bolt. Any resources spent on this is something not spent on this, or not spent on this Grief the following turn. Alright, now we're getting some movement. 5 damage to target creature. So this is why my opponent has like the fairies in there. This is a deck that I played on the channel a while back. Probably a more refined and slightly different version, but alright, been there, done that. Did I just let that resolve? I think I just let it resolve. Like, if things are going my way, I still have 6 power in play at the end of this turn cycle. Not going to wait to play around days or something. I just want to keep the pressure up. So, what are the other modes on this? Draw 2. I think that is too slow for right now. I think I just take the most mana efficient card my opponent has. I'm very surprised they didn't just Force of Will the Grief, though. Like, that seems like a great Force of Will target. Alright, so now I don't know what my draws are anymore. Perfectly happy with that. Sure. I'm going to attempt 6 damage here, and I assume that my opponent will cast Flame. I'm going to Brainstorm in response to that, because I'm almost always doing this turn anyway. So we're just going to put back land. The spell can resolve. Okay, when does Portent shuffle? Immediately. So let's cast Portent. I think still target myself. I don't want to draw 2 of these. It's really awkward that I didn't ponder first. Alright. I am going to use its ability to shuffle. I'll get my cashed in card in a minute. Oh, Bowmasters. And Murktide. These cards are insane. Force on bottom, then Murktide, then Bowmasters.
No shuffle. While I was intending on wastelanding my opponent, let's just see if this is good enough for that Force of Will and the Spell Pierce. And if it is, I get to resolve a Murktide Regent next turn. Yep. I'll take my Portent draw, which is the Murktide. Alright. Then I'll draw a card. I'll play my own Murktide. I've got 5 things to get out of my own graveyard, meaning my Murktide is bigger. I don't think I wasteland my opponent since I have Hardcast Force of Will available next turn. So, now the question is, do I attack with both creatures? I think no. I think I just don't expose this to something weird here. My opponent could have Trick and Spell Pierce or something like that. And I think I just want to be able to have the flexibility here. Oh, it's just a Sprite to block. Is that worth Force of Willing? Feels like it is, so my opponent can't become the aggressor. I don't want my opponent to just like chump 2 turns in a row and become the aggressor. Hey, it's a Spell Pierce like I played around. So are they going to chump or are they going to trade? Because they can block, and then have 2 turns to answer Brazen Borrower. Okay, I mean, this is still a 2-for-1. This is still fine. My opponent's on a 2-turn clock. I have more mana. I have the onboard power. Ooh. That is not what my opponent is looking for. And that is what I'm looking for. How many do we have left? 1, 2 in there. Got it. Oh, am I just like not playing Murktide Regent this turn? I can just play 2 bodies instead. Play Murktide next turn. That's probably better. So play Douthie. Play Stalker. Wasteland my opponent to trigger Descend. A Mystic Sanctuary you're getting? Yep. Do any of those get you out of this spot? Maybe if you have some sort of sweeper? I respect lightning bolting yourself in the face as a way out. That is a great way to end a game. The Stalactite Stalker grows. And we have gotten the GGs, folks. There it is, ye old legacy trophy with Stalactite Stalker. So sometimes we have a video where like the thumbnail card, the cool thing that we're trying out for the day, doesn't really work out. And then we have leagues like this one, where the primary card that we were testing absolutely did some heavy lifting. Now, that's not to say that the trophy is entirely on the back of Stalactite Stalker, because I don't think that's fair. This deck has a lot of evasion. It makes combat tough. It has Force of Will, Grief, and Daze as free cards that gain huge amounts of tempo. And when you have like Regents and Trolls or a Stalactite Stalker that has scaled up a couple of times, or even just multiple creatures, like those tempo plays are very strong. Generally speaking, this deck gets a thumbs up as is. There's some things I'm not 100% sold on. Portent has seen a little bit of a resurgence in Legacy. It's a fine card. I didn't use it targeting my opponent at all in this league. That's a thing that you are allowed to do with this card. So like when you are ahead on board, you can portent your opponent to stop them from drawing an out. It works less well versus cantrip decks. But you know, if you're playing against a Swords to Plowshare matchup, like that is a thing that sometimes matters. Powder Keg not being Ratchet Bomb was relevant today. Less relevant if I remembered how this card worked ahead of time. I guess the weirdest thing to me is that like we 5-0'd in this league despite me not using the sideboard very much. Like it kind of felt like we were pre-boarded for blue with like Bowmasters and Reanimate and just a super high density of threats. So like maybe it's not surprising that we didn't board a lot given that. But this was some really good gameplay in terms of like mechanics and what the deck was able to get itself out of. This one gets a huge thumbs up for me. So seriously, if you need your Stalactite Stalkers, use promo code ThrabenU at Cool Stuff Inc. to support my content while saving yourself a little bit of money. I am going to take a long hot shower after that league. Still a little bit of a sinusy mess. Happy holidays, folks, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great rest of the day. See ya.